Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Friday Business Intelligence Tip. I want to thank you for joining us today. Today, we're starting off a new series around Power BI. I did a little session last week on Power deployment pipelines inside Power BI, but I want to go through a kind of a complete series from beginner to advanced around it. So I'm going to be trying to do a session on that each week. So today, I'm going to kick off with somewhat of a higher level item where I'm going to cover some basic overview of Power BI. So what I wanted to do was show you my Power BI portal. Now, when you see Power BI out on the web, it will look slightly different for each person. So what you'll see won't obviously say good afternoon, Richard, and look like this. I am a Power BI premium user, and we went through different licensing modes on that last week. So if you haven't seen the session on the licensing modes, feel free to check that one out. You'll get a little bit of an overview. But so I'm going to go through some of the kind of high level pieces that you'll see out here, some terms. And then over the subsequent weeks, we'll get into how to create reports and dive into the details behind each of those as we're going through it. So I'm going to start out with when you sign on to powerbi.com, what's going to happen is you're going to see your workspaces out here. So that's the first term I want to cover. That in a workspace, it's really like a gathering of your data, a desktop that you will use to do your work. You create different named workspaces. Now, a workspace can either be a personal workspace or it can be a shared workspace. So what you're going to do is, if you want to collaborate with others on working on things, you would create it as a shared workspace. So basically, you'd create the workspace, define which users you can get at that. And I'll go through those in future items. But once you have a workspace here, you need to add items to it. You'll notice here on the new button, there are different things that you can add to your workspace. There are reports, and that's really going to be the heartbeat of where we're going to spend a lot of our time over the next few weeks, is we'll be creating various reports. A report is a gathering of data and content that you want to view, different visualizations. So maybe a bar chart, a table, a graph, a pie chart, cards, anything that's a kind of a gathering of that common data together for a presentation or a data story that you want to present. The next piece, I'm going to skip this paginated report and go down to the next item on my item here, is a dashboard. Now, there's a lot of confusion out there between what's the difference between a dashboard and a report. When do you build a dashboard versus a report? What I'd like to do is, and there's no 100% right or wrong answer. So, but how I differentiate between the two is a dashboard is a gathering of information for decision making. It's a read-only type of view. So it's going to be your high-level indicators. It is where you put your different pieces of your reports to gather them together to tell cohesive story. So while a report can have one data source behind it, a dashboard can gather various data sources around that. And what that's going to allow you to do is gather those various things together, whether they be KPIs or metrics and things like that. That's what a dashboard is. So you drill from a dashboard to a report, or you launch a report from the dashboard, and then the report has all the supporting data around that details behind it. So whether it be turnover or headcount or something like that. A paginated report is a specialized type of report that's designed more around created multi-page printed type content. So more of the traditional kind of what you would think of as a report. That's what a paginated report would be. The data sets that we'll create are just what it says. It's a set of data that you want to use to work with. So while a report is the visualizations on that, it uses data that you've gathered together in a data set. The data flows are what you use to kind of clean and transform. So if you're familiar with ETL, or that terminology of extract, transform, and load, it's that extraction and transform layer that you can put in place to do that. Streaming data sets, I'm not going to get too much into that now, but that's the ability to do more real-time streaming of data from various things. Now, if I move on over to the left-hand side of my Power BI module here, you're going to see those data sets that are there. And then there's two other items that I'll cover at a real high level today, and we'll go into much deeper in the future. One is a fairly new feature that was added in for goals. If I go ahead and I'll click on goals, goals are a premium feature, so just keep that in mind. You need to be a Power BI premium user in order to take advantage of goals. But what goals do is allow you to set up different benchmarks and goals that you want to do and track your process across that. So things like a scorecard and so forth are part of the goals process that are in there. So here's some examples that come delivered. So if I click on this human resources sample, since I've been working a lot with HR data lately, it gives you the ability to set up your various goals and then track whether you're on track or not, and the progress and so forth between them. So we'll get into some of those details in a future session. Now, an app is a gathering of various content together into one thing. So I mentioned a dashboard was like a single page story of what you're going to do. An application is a bundle of data and visualizations and dashboards together into a single package called an application. And that's a good way for a content creator to bring together all of their information into a single bundle and then deploy that app out there. So it's easy to manage a whole grouping of data sets and reports and everything together. One other question, and I never covered it, or I didn't cover it earlier when I was doing new, between a workspace and a dashboard. There's another confusing thing between those two. Think of a dashboard as a read-only place that people go to look at the data, versus a shared workspace is where collaborators can modify each other's content within that. So workspace is more of a work in progress, and a dashboard is more that final product that you're doing between that. So those are just a few of the things I wanted to just throw out there, get some terminology out there in this first session. Don't want to take too much of your time today, but at least give you an overview of the different pieces that are there. Starting next week, we're going to start to build out and go into details on each one of those items. We'll spend a lot of time in the data sets and the report area, because that really is the heartbeat of Power BI and when you're doing your work. So we're going to spend most of the following weeks around building data sets and reports, and then we'll pull that all together with apps and dashboards after that. So hopefully you found today's session useful on getting just your feet wet on understanding Power BI, and then we'll cover those in future sessions. So thanks for listening, and we'll talk with you again next week. Thank you.